Hello, this is Barbara With. You are here with me and the Psychic Sorority and the party. The party is a dedicated group of compassionate and diligent souls who've been working with us in the afterlife for world peace. World peace, one person at a time, starting with ourselves. They've been with us for the past 30 some years. So, welcome. And today we're going to do a very special channel about war and evil. A beautiful young woman from Tel Aviv reached out to me in August saying they didn't know what to do. They were afraid. They saw that war was coming, and even the most spiritual of them, were at their wits' end as it, no matter what they did, prayed, protested, it just get closer and closer. And I told her that conflict revolution is not something that I would refer to somebody in a war zone, if only for the reason that I've never been in a war zone and I've never myself tested it in a war zone outside myself. I have tested it in an internal war zone, but that doesn't count when it comes to what's happening with Israel and Palestine and all over the world all the time in the form of war. So, sure enough, their worst nightmares came true, and now she is in the front lines of Israel, Palestine, the killing and the massacring on both sides. What are we supposed to do? So, we are calling a special channel this morning just to address that question and that about evil. What is it? Can we live? Is there a world where we can live without having evil pervasive? What are those unanswerable questions? So, thank you so much for joining us. So, let's take some deep breaths and turn inward. And feel your body here in the moment, right now, present moment. Get out of your head and into your heart. Use your breath to pull energy up through the solar plexus. And we will command that only the most divine light shine down upon you at this time, and the greatest good be present here. We come to you today, a force of compassion, and included in that force are not just angelic bodies and those in afterlife who are committed to assisting in the evolutionary process of consciousness, but all of you, that non-physical, eternal part of you. And so we will command that only the most divine light shine down upon you at this time, and the greatest good be present here. We'll say that again in order to bring in only the highest and greatest good. And there are not answers to all of your questions. We will do our best to delineate between the two pieces of the whole that you experience as humans. The one is the human drama, coming to life, being born, going through your youth into young adulthood, and then on to become a full-fledged sovereign human being. And the other is from that eternal part, that non-physical part of you that exists in the source of all things as pure energy with intention. And you can't have the first without the second, but you can have the second without the first. So each and every time that the non-physical part of your consciousness that has been reincarnating over and over again decides to come to life, there is a tacit understanding before the human physical body is created to trap that mathematical energy and project it and perceive it as your physical life. Before that, there's quite a bit of complex planning that goes on about, would it be best to be a man or a woman? Would it be best to be in this country or that country? Would it be best to be during this time or that time? Depending upon what is your particular and very specific goal. And in that goal, in the evolution of human consciousness, is bringing about the truth through the human mind in order to manifest the truth in the physical world. What's going on now is that the way to get to that is that each soul who is given a human body is also given free will. And that free will is contained in that is the power to make choices that aren't for the good of the whole, as intuition would have you do, but are for the good of the few at the expense of the many. And whether that is personally, where a human being continues to make decisions solely from an intellectual standpoint without regard to intuition or emotion, that's a recipe for conflict and illness. Or if it's the macrocosm that you're dealing with now, that's deciding what is for the good of the whole. And the reality in the physical world has its own manifestation. It has its own experience because it is separateness, because it is created with this physical body to be in a particular time and space and with other people in that separation. There's specific laws that operate within space-time. It doesn't mean they're the laws that are of everything, but they are having to do with space-time. And one is that you move through space-time. As space-time ticks off, your body ages. And when your body dies, everything that you have done has been recorded into this compilation of consciousness that you are in the non-physical. And so every time you live a life where you're a warring, marauding, raping, pillaging man, there are complex systems that go into what other lives you're going to live in order to bring balance and freedom and choice of compassion. And given that opportunity, life after life after life. And now is the time where the human species is evolving past those patterns that you're seeing play out in front of you. And the hatred of the Jews is something that's very specific. And then the hatred of the Palestinian is something that's very specific. And the hatred of Americans is something that's very specific. And the hatred in America for race upon race or class upon class is very specific. So hate, in that sense of projecting the negative emotions with an intellectual message that somebody else is the source of that, and therefore that hate gets projected onto that class or that person or that situation outside of self. That's the complex system that is the dilemma, is that you only have control of your domain. You cannot control anyone else's hate of you. Only you can control your decisions, your thoughts, your feelings, your senses, your intellect, your intuition, your emotion, and how you're going to deal with all that. Whether there's a war going on or not, that's just a scientific fact. That's just the truth. And in the evolution of consciousness, there is a new energy that is rising that wants to end this projection as a way of life based on fear and projection, and instead turn inward and take some deep responsibility in a microcosm to become that change, if only for your own evolution, if only for in the long run of the lives that everyone has led at trying to bring balance into this removal of this us versus them, fear-based projection culture. And so that can only be changed by people within the culture becoming that change. It's not an immediate promise that by becoming that change, by refusing to project hatred, even on those who hate you, that you are fulfilling something within your own bigger, greater purpose, your own scientific complex systems that are bringing balance to this evolution. Each human is been programmed exactly for whatever that balance is. We cannot explain anyone's. Why are some people born into the front lines? Why are some people born into Gaza? Why are some people born into Madeline Island? Why are some people born into behind the lines? Those are questions we cannot answer, except to say that it's all based on one's individual contractual intention as a deeper soul who's committed to repetitive reincarnation to change this human species. And it does mean that the human species that you're seeing in front of you, the hatred on all sides, just like it's not about the Israelis, it's not about the Palestinians, it's not about that, it's about the terror, and it's about the hatred of anyone, whether it's the hatred of the Jews or the hatreds of the Palestinians or the hatred of the Americans or the hatred of anyone. It's the hatred. And it's purposeful in that if you look at the long run of human evolution and what the intention is for humanity to evolve a new earth where there is no more need for war, this is part of that movement. And your relationship, all of your individually, your relationship to it is what's important to you. That's the great challenge all of you have been given, is how are you going to deal with the evil that exists in the projection of, in your lens, in the physical world. There are people who will kill you. There are people who hate you. There are people who will murder you. All of that exists in the physical world. It always has. And yet, in this vast movement that's going on in the world, as the weapons of war have gotten bigger, so have the networks of compassionate people who are dedicated to not hating and not projecting and not blaming and taking care of their own energies to be guided by intuition. And we, in all of our experiments with this process of being guided by your intuition, it doesn't guarantee that you won't find yourself in front of someone or some situation that's evil. What it means is that your intuition knows a much bigger picture than your human mind does. And we guarantee you that when all is said and done, and however your life ends in this life, that when you end that life and your body is gone and the human intention folds back up into your compilation of consciousness until you decide which expression of consciousness you're going to go next to. And trust us, you have lives where you're at peace, where you don't have trials and tribulations. All through lives, all through the time of humans, there have been lives that are not filled with hate and not filled with war. What's processing now is all of that mathematical information that's held in your compilation of consciousness, that's collected up from all of those free will lives that you go into to help evolve the human species. So every life that you go into, that you can achieve a higher level of making decisions for the good of the whole, the more you're committing to a long view of unification, starting with yourself and the other lives that you've lived. And you're processing these other lives. How many other lives are fighting these fights? And how can you detach while still staying in compassion by keeping this long view and feeling and breathing and understanding the profundity that is the mystery of all of it? At the bottom, at the base, at the root is a mysterious uh, condition. And can you accept that mystery? Can you accept that there aren't clear answers for why we're gathered in the non-physical in afterlife? All of you are at various stages of living on both sides of the veil. The trauma and the PTSD and the terror that's going on specifically with you over there in that area where it's all happening is certainly challenging. And we want you to, while you're in this place, to feel the long view to the best of your ability. As you get into each second as eternity, you're in a place where every second can be eternity. The depth of emotion that all of this is soliciting around the world on all sides needs to be channeled and felt and moved. So anytime any of you can do this breath work, just the breath work of moving that deep emotion for the world in prayer and intention of birthing this new earth and this higher humanity. And the truth is that the world can end. There are worse things. Human suffering, we feel, is repeatedly rated worse than death. Know that there is a greater presence of compassion, regardless of what you are seeing, regardless of what you are feeling in that insanity. And breathe that in as much as you can and let it just be with you. And as hard as it is to quiet the mind, to stop the raging thoughts of why, because those will hurt you, those will drain you, they will make you tenser, and they will help precipitate more PTSD. To be able to breathe the feeling behind the words, but to the best of your ability, give them back to the universe and let go and commit yourself to your own self-care. And we are here. We are here for you.
Is there any possibility for a world without evil in this current physics law that we are living accordingly?
In this particular physics flow of how humans operate, no, because if you took away evil, you would take away free will. And as odd and cruel as that may sound, the purpose of the evolution is for humanity to be willing, be the participation of the willing to make free will choices that will not be evil. And we describe evil as decisions made for the good of the few at the expense of the many. So you are the only domain that can do away with evil in that sense for you. And Barbara's the only one who can do it for her, and the rest of the world is the only one that can do it for them. And that's the journey, and that's always been the journey.
But if the consciousness will evolve and all the people will accept and love themselves, all the parts of their self, is it possible that human being won't choose evil? And is it possible to live in consciousness that of compassion and love and just to evolve from good to more good and not
Yes,
choose evil? Is it possible in this physics, in the laws of physics and mathematics in Earth?
yes, that's
It's
the
possible.
journey. That's the journey you're on right now.
And do you feel there is a critical mass that is choosing compassion?
Yes.
Well, it's a good it's a good answer. Thank you. And another question, because I really feel that I can, feel even compassion to the ones that murder children, just because I can understand and I can see the lack of love there, and not, and I don't have hate in my heart, but I do when I thinking about us versus them. The only thing I do feel that there is the one of the purpose of evil, maybe, if I can call it like this, is that I will recognize evil and choose differently. So the act that I choose to do when I see evil is to recognize it and to say I condemn it. But when I condemn something, I'm against it. And when I'm against something, I just, whatever you resist persist, right? So what is your advice when it's not in theoretical, discussion, when you see evil, when you see people that killing babies, and for doesn't matter what is the reason that they are saying, but this is the act, and you want to protect the children, you want to protect your family, your country, the humanity from this kind of actions. So I have to condemn it, but then I against it.
Well, we would say that to condemn it, there's a theoretical interpretation of that. So that let's take the outside world out of the equation and let's revolve it in. Because if you are the only one that you can control to make decisions for the good of the whole as opposed to the good of the few at the expense of the many, that's the only one that you can do, is that you don't want to resist the truth, is that there's killers in the world who have hate in their hearts, and they rain that hate down on innocent children. And clearly that is decisions that are not for the good of the whole. It's at the expense of the many. And so you can identify that that is evil and you cannot participate in it. You can say, no, I don't support that. That's evil. You can do whatever intuitively you're called to create the alignment to compassion that you can with the energy that you have. And what we would say is that to be able to discern that it's evil is not resistance, but to attach your emotional reaction and a description of what you see to it. Now you become attached to it, which means there's a resistance to it. It's that you don't want to resist it, but you have to condemn it. So there's a balancing act between the discernment and allowing yourself to feel what you feel when you see such things, such evil things going on. But there's still a position of neutral that we say, and we don't mean not condemning it, we just mean not attaching to it, not attaching to it, identifying it, breathing into it, being guided to do at any given moment something to counteract it. Perhaps it's not even resisting it as much as it is to create something different that's going to be more powerful than it is, which is love. And then holding love for the whole situation, because in the longer run, and we don't suggest that this is something that you have to force yourself to do if you have to look at such atrocities as children being killed, but to be able to go into your non-physical place, into that longer view that is completely detached from the suffering of that physical world that you're in. When you lose your body and you get back into afterlife, there's a whole different way that you see and process, because you see the whole picture. But we can't ask you to do that while you're in that situation, but we can suggest that it's that attachment to the resistance of the evil that is what we want to see transform, if that makes sense.
Yes, it makes sense in the personal level. I understand the again, I'm do feel called to condemn and tell the truth, just that, you know, the evil will have a role in order that people will see and choose differently, and will
Yes.
understand what is the meaning to choose and to support such agendas. This is, so it's not, it is, I can say, resistance, but it's not calling for hate or revenge, or just see, acknowledge that this is the situation, and don't let it be the state of the world right now. And if I look as a country, usually, you know, I'm always against wars, but what a country can do when there are missiles every day on the city, on the houses, when people being killed, when so the what is the option of a country that want to evolve? So a war, it's always resistance, but if a war is not something that you choose, but you have to do it in order to defend your citizens, and you do it in the most, you are trying to do it, you know, always war, there is terrible suffering and victims, both sides, but what is the choice for a country? I understand it's one by one, and it's not a, but just in order for me to, you know, to set my mind on the, also in the country level, and when I'm talking to people, I can't, you know, share my inner words, because this is mine, and this is, it's not something that you can give to someone. But what advice would you give to leaders of countries to do differently in such a situation in order to stop this situation? Or maybe there is, I feel like the role of these Jews and Muslims and the hate of the Jews, the role is always to awaken the others, but it is terrible role to take.
We would suggest in the microcosm is the same for the macrocosm, is Israel and Palestine and the United States and Iran and uh, Egypt and all of the countries that are involved in war need to stop and look at what is their part in perpetuating that war. Because as theoretical as that is, because no one will do that at this moment, but as theoretical as it is, imagine if that were to be the case, that what would Israel find reflected in that mirror? What would the Hamas find? What would Egypt find? How could they change from within? And the problem that you're facing in this day is that because none of that is actually happening, then there is a dying from inside. There's an internal collapse of the system because it's built upon a projection, which means constantly emptying resources that go for the good of the whole at the expense of the whole. And because of the very propaganda that you're seeing and understanding how, wondering how minds can be twisted, so much propaganda on all sides, every single side, whatever country you have, whatever persuasion of left or right or black or white or Muslim or Jew or any of it, you can be sure that there is a massive amount of propaganda that's being projected all over everyone at such levels that unless you're incredibly strong and really, really well put together, it's very difficult to escape the propaganda. Even those of you who are proudly not succumbing to it, there's still, as a rule, propaganda in the intellect that tells you you're not good enough or you can't do it or you don't have that power. There's all kinds of propaganda on all kinds of levels. And so those people who are being driven by hatred are not only bought into all of the propaganda, but perpetuating the propaganda through those hatred, evil actions for the good of the few at the expense of the many. So that's what we would theoretically tell governments and communities. And yet we've never been prognosticators. We're not here to predict how things will happen, but we are here as a group of souls who lived life on earth during war, came together in afterlife to try to facilitate a new understanding and a new change to you who have bodies. That's our intention. And we also see that life after life, this is the manifesto for the destiny of creating a world of peace. So it's going to happen. How many lifetimes, how many civilizations, we're not sure, we don't predict, but all of us are committed to that. And what that means is we come back again and again into sometimes harrowing situations to be the change. While you are faced with so many questions that aren't answerable at this time, then the question becomes for you, how do you take care of yourself and your family to the best of your ability right now in these unprecedented times? And that's what our prayers are for, the caring and the prayers for all humans right now.
I appreciate it. Actually, I don't know how. I know that I'm okay. I'm doing my work every day and going to the sea that is my womb of cosmic womb that I'm always and sending love and so I feel that I'm okay, but looking on my family, if so, there is this human, instinct to run away. It seems like it's not even a war between Israel and Palestine. It seems that there is so many interest here of so many countries and leaders, and it's very hard. I feel that we are just like dolls in a big play that we don't even understand and see. So I can quiet myself and go to the higher perspective and send love, but looking on this human reality that I'm living in, maybe in order to take care of myself and my family I have to go. I don't know. I just know how to take care of myself. This is that. And not even my family. I don't know.
And when you say you have to go,
From Israel, I mean.
yes, that might be a possibility.
Yes, it's not an easy one to decide. I guess if it's Einstein and you experience the hate for the Jews all over the world, so to be in other places, it's not it's I guess it's not the solution. The hope that I have, I'm trying again every day to imagine a word that is awake and choose for the whole what it wants for himself, because I think every human being wants to live in peace and love. But I don't know if it's something that right now in the current consciousness is available. But though you said that there is critical mass of people that share the same vision.
Yes, and that there's hate for a lot of things. There's hate for Jews. There's hate for Arabs. There's hate for blacks. There's hate everywhere.
Mhm.
And so the only fear that you need to have is that you don't succumb to it. We feel as if part of that transformation of human consciousness is face to face finding these ways to overcome those divisions and those divisions of hate. And it can't be done with hate. So, wherever you go, if you end up going, you will face decisions together as a family as you move forward from here that you've never dreamt that you had to make. And together, the love that you have for yourselves and the love that you have for compassion of humanity that you can hold in your heart is your greatest asset right now. And we're not here to tell you how to do it or what it looks like, but that's all we know from here is that the more critical mass of compassion in the face of everything, the more the transformation is hastened. And maybe that's not a good thing if the old systems need to crumble, but that is indeed what seems to be happening from where we are.
Yes, I feel like there is potential here for War 3 or mass awakening. I hope before the war, but I understand that you can't really give me those answers. It's our choice. But you do see a critical mass of people that can do such a change before destruction.
Yes, there is. There's a great deal more compassion than there is the broadcasted hate. They're not broadcasting the compassion, but the compassion is there. all over the world. We've never wanted to predict anything except if people can keep love and compassion in the forefront.
Mhm. And I ask, I know it was mixed, but the role of the, since I know there is hate everywhere, but since I'm in Israel and I'm a Jew, so I'm asking about, and somehow, you know, there was a lot of hate and murder of kids and babies also in Africa and in Ukraine, and in somehow the magnitude, though Israel is small and Palestine is small, but there is too many interests here of all the countries of the world. So what is the role? Is there any role for this, from the Yitzhak and Ishmael in the Bible, you know? So it's very, very anxious. It's so I guess there is a role for this hate for so many years, and this war zone so many years. The role is to awakening, and when it's extreme, it's mean that there is extreme light in the other side, or it's misinterpretation.
Well, it's something like that. It's that as more and more people are abandoning the old operating system, as more children are being born into their own consciousness, that is, seems to be, is the indigo children that seem to be disconnected in some ways from the propaganda of it, as they bring in this new energy and this new vision. All of that exists so much farther across the world. If you were to be able to petition 8 billion people individually, you would find that there's a great deal more compassion than there is hate. And that's the point of lifetime after lifetime of this monumentous place where humanity has come to face these truths. And every single individual is being challenged and confronted. Everyone who has come here in this, their bodies right now, here, is being challenged. And some are dying off. Some have volunteered and were chosen to have a particular role that elevates them then in afterlife. There's all kinds of things going on behind the scenes. So we're going to close the channel right now by saying that uh, we see this very much as you've articulated, that people are being shown that you choose evil or you don't choose evil. And people are being inspired more and more to look at their own lives, at where they might be choosing some kind of evil, some kind of projection with hate that they don't realize. People are starting to self scrutinize and understand that at the root of everything, you're all one being. You and your haters are all one being. And that is the ultimate mystery and quandary of human life, is how are you going to transcend all of that complex systems that's been programmed in to bring balance? What decisions can you make on a sometimes a minute to minute basis that are going to be in love, regardless of what's going on around you? And that is the way for the change. It's the only way that humanity can make this evolutionary step. And we are very grateful that we are all a part of it. Namaste.
Thank you very much. Namaste.